Joseph, when he was 17 years old, was tending the sheep with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah. And he brought back their father a bad report about them. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. And he had made for Joseph a special robe, a colorful robe with sleeves. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of his brothers, they hated him, could not speak peaceably to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I've had. There we were, out in the fields, binding sheaves of grain, and suddenly my sheep rose and stood upright, and yours gathered around and bowed down to my sheep." And his brothers said, will you indeed reign over us? Do you mean to rule us?" And they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And then Joseph had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. He said, "I've had another dream. Listen to this dream that I've had. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." And he told it to his father and his brothers. And his father rebuked him, saying, "What is this dream that you've had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers come and bow ourselves down to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father kept the saying in mind. Now his brothers were tending the flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers keeping the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to him, "Here I am." He said, "Go then, see if all is well with your brothers and with the sheep, and bring word back to me." So he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. And when he came to Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the field. And he said to him, "What are you seeking?" "I am looking for my brothers," Joseph said. "Can you tell me, please, where they're grazing the sheep?" The man said, "They've gone on from here. I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. But while he was still far in the distance, before he had reached his brothers, they saw him, and they conspired against him to kill him. They said, "Here comes this dreamer. Come, let's kill him and throw him into one of these water pits. We will say that some wild animal has devoured him. Then we shall see what will become of his dreams." So when Joseph came to his brothers, he stripped him of his robe and threw him into a pit. But when Reuben heard it, he had sought to deliver them from his hands, saying, "Let's not kill him." And he said to him, "Shed no blood. Throw him into the pit here in the wilderness, but do not take his life, so that he might deliver him from their hands and restore him to their father." So when they had put Joseph in the pit, they sat down to eat a meal. When they looked up, there was a caravan of Ishmaelites coming down from Gilead with their camels laden with gum, balm, and myrrh, on their way to Egypt, to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said, "What profit is it to us if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to these Ishmaelites and not lay a hand on him ourselves. For after all, he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him. So when the traders reached them, they pulled Joseph up, lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the traders for 20 silver shekels. So they took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and where can I go now?" So they took Joseph's special robe, and they killed a young goat, dipped the robe in its blood. And they sent and brought the robe to their father and said, "See, we have found this." Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe or not. And Jacob recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Joseph is surely torn to pieces. Some wild animal has devoured him." And he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he would not be comforted. He said, "No, I will go down to the grave in mourning for my son." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites took Joseph off to Egypt, where they sold him to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard. Now, Joseph had been taken to Egypt, where he was enslaved and then imprisoned on false charges. Through God's help and ability to interpret dreams, he had been risen to become second highest ruler in all of Egypt. And when a famine brought Joseph's brothers to Egypt in search of food, it was to him that they came. Joseph had not seen his family for over 20 years. They didn't recognize him, but he knew them. And he began to deal with them very strangely. First, accusing them of being spies and insisting that they produce their youngest brother, Benjamin, Joseph's only full brother, as proof of their honesty. And then hiding his own personal silver cup in Benjamin's sack of grain and having him arrested for theft. Then Judah came up to Joseph and said, "My lord, please let your servant speak a word in my lord's ears, and do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." My lord asked his servants, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we told my lord, "We have a father, an aged man, and a young brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children. His father loves him." My lord said to us, "Bring your brother down so I can set my eyes on him." But we answered, "My lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. We said to your servants, however, unless the boy comes down with you, you shall see my face no more." So when we went back up to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my lord. And when my father said to us, "Go back again, buy us a little more food," we said to him, "We cannot go down. If our youngest brother goes with us, then we will go down. We cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us." Now that when we return to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, since his life is so bound up closely and bound up in the boy's life, it will be that as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, our father will die. And your servant will have brought the gray hair of your servant our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant became a pledge, guaranteeing the safety of the boy to my father. I said to him, "If I do not bring the boy back to you, let me bear the blame in the sight of my father all my life. Please, my lord, let me stay here as a slave to my lord instead of the boy, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the misery that would come upon my father." Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants who stood by him, and he cried out, "Everybody out!" So no one was with him when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard of it. And he said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers could not speak to him. They were dismayed at his presence. Joseph said to them, "Come near to me, please." So they came near. And he said to them, "I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now, do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God brought me here, sent me ahead of you to preserve lives. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and there are yet 5 more years in which there will be neither harvest nor planting nor harvest. God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So that it was not you who brought me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry, go up to my father and tell him, your son Joseph says this: God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. You shall live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. I will provide for you there, for there are yet 5 more years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth which speaks to you. Tell my father of all my honor in Egypt and of all that you have seen. Now hurry, bring my father down here quickly." And then he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. And then he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterwards, his brothers talked with him. So Jacob came to Egypt, where he was reunited with his beloved son Joseph, and lived out the remainder of his days in peace. When his end was near, he blessed all his sons, and Joseph's sons too. Then he died. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said to themselves, "What if Joseph still holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all we did to him?" So they sent word to Joseph, saying, "Our father instructed us before he died, saying, 'Say this to Joseph: please forgive, I beg you, the crime of your brothers against you and the great sin they committed in treating you so badly and wrongly. For they did you a great wrong. Now please forgive the servants of the God of your father.'" And Joseph wept at their words. And the brothers who came before him bowing to the ground and saying, "We are your slaves." But Joseph said, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You indeed intended evil against me, but God meant it for good, so that he could bring it about as it is today, the saving of many lives. Do not be afraid. I will take care of you and your little ones." And so Joseph spoke kindly to them and reassured them.